Hello everyone. In this video, we will try to understand Indian foreign policy. I'm going to prepare a series of lectures basically to understand PSR optional through informal discussion. There will be no such rigorous teaching. We'll just share our opinions, our views in order to understand PSR optional from the point of view of UPSC CSE preparation. Now, before delving into Indian foreign policy, let us try to understand what do you mean by foreign policy in general. Now, foreign policy, if we can imagine foreign policy is a set, then every set is having elements. Like in mathematics, you might have studied set is having different elements. Now, if I say foreign policy refers to set, then the elements will be various principles, strategy, actions, and decision that are adopted by a sovereign nation or a sovereign country in order to interact with other countries and international actors. Why? To pursue national interest. I hope you are clear now. Now, here the key terms are this foreign policy is followed by a sovereign country. Now, for example, sovereign country like India. India is having a foreign policy, right? Now, why is India having a foreign policy? Because it has to, or it is trying to achieve the national interest. Now, for that, it is having a set of principles. You may be knowing, after our independence, we have followed the Nehruvian foreign policy, basically the Panchashil principles. And during the Cold War, we have also followed non-alignment principles. So these are principles that India followed in its foreign policy. Strategy. India has not taken any side with the major two power, neither with USSR, neither with USA. But when the need arises in 1971, during the liberation of Bangladesh, we have signed a treaty of peace and friendship with the erstwhile USSR. Now, this was a strategy. Likewise, actions. India has taken many actions in order to protect its security or in order to protect its sovereignty. For example, we have fought wars with China, with Pakistan. So there are many such examples I can give you that refers to the foreign policy decision taken by a sovereign country like India, while it was interacting with its neighbor in South Asia or otherwise in the global arena in general. I also told you that this foreign policy also include the interaction with the international actor. Now, who are the international actors here? For example, India. India is a founding member of the United Nations. So its policy, its foreign policy, at present, if you see, it is trying to occupy or trying to achieve a seat in the UNSC or the United Nations Security Council, right? So these are what? These are foreign policy. So if I summarize, so foreign policy refers to a set of principle, strategy, and actions that are adopted by a sovereign state to interact with other countries and international actors to pursue its national interest. That's it, simple. Now, in the current context, you may be knowing the latest example, India and China, they have a disengagement at the LAC. Now, this is an example of foreign policy of India. Okay, this is a diplomatic intervention by India, right? Then India also participated in BRICS recently in the Kazan in Russia. So again, BRICS is it's a forum, it's an international forum. So India is trying to interact with the member country of BRICS. Now you may be thinking, in order to achieve foreign policy, a country should have different kind of tools or instrument. Now, what are those tools? These tools are basically, or you can say this activity are basically diplomatic in nature, security in nature, or military in nature. economic in nature, or cultural in nature. I gave you example of culture, like how India during the recent G20 presidency tries to show the world that one world, one family, the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam principle, right? Economic, for example, India has backed itself out of the RCEP agreement in order to protect the interest of the farmer, the interest of the local industry, the businessman, the service sector, right? Prosperity. Okay. Sorry. These are the tools I told you, na? Economic, military, cultural activities, and diplomatic intervention. These are tools that are often undertaken by a sovereign country. Now, why a country does that? It's very simple. To achieve national interest, to achieve security interest, prosperity, or preserving its value, right? See, India support, let us say, it is having a value that always teaches tolerance, compassion, non-violence to the world, right? So India, through its foreign policy, tries to preserve this core value, right? For example, America, it's try to preserve the value of liberty, isn't it? So these are basically the elements or the aims of foreign policy. Now you are clear what do you mean by foreign policy. Now suppose you have to quote any political scholar. I will give you three examples. One from the realist school by Hans Morgenthau. Now Morgenthau tells, since he is a realist, he will try to focus on only national interest. He will tell these foreign policies are nothing but planned pursuit of national interest through military, economic, and diplomatic instrument by a state. Simple. That's what we have discussed just now. Similarly, Joseph Nye, he is a neoliberal scholar. You may be knowing liberal scholar, they will be talking about what? Liberalism, and the core value of liberalism will be what? Cooperations, values, right? Liberal principles. So he talks about foreign policy in this line that these are the actions and decisions towards the external environment taken by a state and its leader. Let us say a very simple example. China, India, okay, or India, China. We are taking various action at the border, at LSU. Why? Because China is doing some action. Okay, it is taking some decision. Now we have to also act according to the changing external environment. The changing dynamics of this geopolitics dictates India to take steps, okay, in its neighborhood as well as in the global forum, right? So Joseph Nye further emphasizes that this foreign policy, this is driven by a country's goal and aspiration or interest. And this goal, aspiration, or interest can be anything. It may be security, it may be prosperity, it may be value, right? Our former National Security Advisor, Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon, he defines foreign policy that foreign policy is nothing but it is minimaxing. Now, what is minimaxing? He wants to say that through foreign policy, one country reduces or minimizes the risk and maximizes the benefit. It's very simple. Every country will try to minimize risk. Risk in the sense it may be anything. It may be from the point of view of military, security, or any loss from the point of view of economic. Okay. And every country will try to maximize their benefit or the prosperity. This is simple. See, this foreign policy, if I tell you, it's like how we are interacting with our neighbor. For what? We want to have a very cordial relationship so that we'll have a stability, okay, in our society. Similarly, in the global arena, when countries react with each other, okay, or countries react in a global forum, let us say United Nations or G20, or let us say in the South Asia, there is a forum called SARC or BIMSTEC. So when countries are interacting with each other, in order to achieve their national interest, this is nothing but the core concept of IR, international relation. Okay. Now, every country is having a unique foreign policy, right? See, India's foreign policy is driven by some core elements, but US's foreign policy will be driven by some other core elements. China, it wants to be a superpower. So its foreign policy will be different than that of India, right? So this foreign policy basically defines what are the principles, actions, decisions a country is taking and how it is shaping its relationship with the other countries and in the global forum. So I hope in this discussion, we have tried to understand the essence of foreign policy. Now, in the next video, we'll try to see particularly what do you mean by what is the nature of Indian foreign policy. We'll come down to India. Okay, how India performs its foreign policy, what are its core objective or overall objectives of Indian foreign policy, that we'll try to see. So thank you for this patient listening. Have a good day.